Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins are once again making headlines, and this time it's not because of some dazzling touchdown by Tyreek Hill or a jaw-dropping play from Waddle. Instead, it's a story about resilience, roster depth, and the search for stability in the wake of adversity. Tyreek Hill, the explosive star who has been the centerpiece of Miami's high-octane passing game, is out with a season-ending knee injury. It's a blow that leaves a gaping hole in Mike McDaniel's offense. And let's be honest, there's no real way to replace Hill's unmatched speed, his ability to stretch defenses, or the fear factor he brings to every opponent. But football doesn't stop for injuries, and the Dolphins have no choice but to turn the page and look for reinforcements. That's where a familiar face enters the picture: veteran wide receiver Cedric Wilson Jr., a player who knows the Dolphins, knows the system, and brings a sense of comfort in uncertain times. Wilson is being signed off the New Orleans Saints practice squad, a move reported by NFL Network's Tom Pelissero. It might not be the kind of flashy signing that gets fans rushing to buy jerseys, but make no mistake, in the context of Miami's current situation, it's a decision that makes plenty of sense. Wilson isn't a superstar, and he never pretended to be, but he's reliable, experienced, and perhaps most importantly, familiar with McDaniel's offense. He spent 2 seasons in Miami after coming over from the Dallas Cowboys, tallying 34 receptions across 2022 and 2023. His tenure in Miami wasn't exactly headline-making, in part because his arrival was immediately overshadowed by the blockbuster trade for Tyreek Hill in March of 2022. Once Hill entered the building, Wilson's role was minimized, and he became something of an afterthought in the offense. Still, he stayed professional, contributed when called upon, and started 3 games during his stint in teal and orange. Fast forward to now, and his career has come full circle. After playing the 2024 season with the Saints, where he caught 20 passes for 211 yards and 1 touchdown in 15 games, Wilson finds himself heading back to South Florida, tasked with helping the Dolphins stabilize their passing attack. It's not just about the stats with Wilson. It's about trust, familiarity, and the ability to integrate quickly. He doesn't need a crash course on McDaniel's system, and that matters in a league where time is precious and every game carries weight. The Dolphins don't have the luxury of waiting around for a new face to learn the playbook. They need someone who can step in immediately, and Wilson fits that bill. Of course, bringing back Wilson doesn't erase the harsh reality of Hill's absence. Losing Hill is like losing an entire playbook page, maybe even a whole chapter. His vertical threat forces safeties to backpedal, his quickness forces cornerbacks into constant panic, and his presence creates opportunities for everyone else on the field. Without him, defenses will have less reason to play deep, which means more pressure on Waddle and the rest of the receiver group to create separation and produce. That group, as it stands now, includes Waddle, Malik Washington, Nick Westbrook-Ikine, D. Eskridge, and Taj Washington. It's a mix of potential and promise, but outside of Waddle, it's not exactly the kind of proven depth that makes defensive coordinators lose sleep. Taj Washington, Miami's 7th-round pick in 2024, hasn't even played a snap, yet due to spending his rookie season on injured reserve, and he's been inactive for every game so far in 2025. Eskridge has flashed at times, but he's more of a gadget weapon than a consistent producer. Westbrook-Ikine is steady but unspectacular, while Malik Washington is still finding his footing as a pro. So, while Wilson isn't a game-breaker, he provides something Miami desperately needs right now: stability and experience. He's been in the league since 2018, he's lined up in multiple systems, and he's capable of moving around the formation when asked. Think of him as a safety net rather than a spark plug. That's important when your offense suddenly loses the most electrifying weapon in football. And let's not overlook the fact that this isn't the first time Miami has turned to an old friend when depth became an issue. Earlier this year, the Dolphins added running back Jeff Wilson Jr. back to the practice squad after free agent pickup Alexander Mattison landed on injured reserve and second-year back Jalen Wright went down with a knee injury. It's part of a broader trend under McDaniel's leadership. When the team needs reinforcements, they often look to players who already understand the system and the culture. It reduces risk, speeds up integration, and provides a sense of continuity. Meanwhile, as Cedric Wilson rejoins the Dolphins, other familiar faces are also floating around the league. Robbie Chosen, another former Miami wideout, is reportedly signing with the Washington Commanders practice squad. River Crocraft, who had a solid stint in Miami and has long-standing ties with McDaniel dating back to their time together in San Francisco, is also looking for a new team after bouncing between Seattle and Washington this offseason. It's interesting to see how these names keep circling back into the news cycle, almost like the Dolphins' extended family. For Wilson, the opportunity is clear. He may not see the ball 10 times a game, but he's got a chance to carve out a meaningful role, especially if defenses lock in on Waddle. His size, route running, and ability to find soft spots in coverage make him a useful possession receiver. He's not the guy who's going to turn a 5-yard slant into a 60-yard touchdown the way Hill could, but he can keep the chains moving, and that's a vital ingredient for sustaining drives. The Dolphins' offense doesn't need to reinvent itself, but it does need to recalibrate, and Wilson can be a part of that process. This move also highlights something bigger: the fragility of NFL rosters and the constant balancing act teams face between star power and depth. Miami went all in with Hill, and it paid dividends in terms of explosiveness and identity. But when that pillar falls, suddenly the supporting cast becomes the focal point. That's when a guy like Wilson, who may have once been overshadowed, steps into the spotlight, not as the star, but as the steady hand keeping the offense from collapsing. It will be fascinating to see how McDaniel schemes around this new reality. He's known for his creativity, and now he'll have to lean on it more than ever. Expect more motion, more attempts to manufacture touches for Waddle, and maybe even some surprises from players like Eskridge or Malik Washington. Wilson's presence gives McDaniel another chess piece, someone who can be trusted to run the right routes and make the smart plays, even if they don't end up on highlight reels. At the end of the day, Dolphins fans know this. The dream of replicating Tyreek Hill's impact is unrealistic. There's simply no substitute for his game-breaking ability. But the NFL is about adapting, surviving, and finding ways to compete regardless of circumstances. Cedric Wilson Jr.'s return to Miami might not move the needle nationally, but inside that locker room, it represents a step toward stability and a reminder that sometimes the familiar face is the best option in the toughest of moments. The challenge now falls to McDaniel, Tua Tagovailoa, and the rest of this offense to rally together, spread the ball around, and prove that the Dolphins can still be dangerous even without their cheetah leading the charge. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? A storm seems to be brewing in Miami, and it's not just the usual hurricane season chatter. The Dolphins, a team that has been turning heads in the AFC for the past few seasons, suddenly find themselves at the center of a locker room controversy that could shake the franchise to its core. The rumor mill exploded this week after Jalen Waddle, one of the Dolphins' brightest stars, made headlines with comments that are sending shockwaves through the NFL community. According to insiders, Waddle allegedly revealed that he will no longer play alongside Tyreek Hill, the team's marquee wide receiver, and he didn't hold back about the tension behind the scenes. He reportedly stated that Hill is widely disliked within the Dolphins' locker room, a claim that, if true, could signal deep fractures in a team that has been riding high on its offensive firepower. It's hard to overstate the impact of such a revelation. Tyreek Hill, often dubbed Cheetah for his blazing speed and game-changing ability, has been a key figure for Miami's offense since his arrival. Paired with Tua Tagovailoa and Waddle, the trio seemed destined to form one of the most dynamic passing attacks in the league. But the alleged rift suggested by Waddle paints a completely different picture, one where personal conflicts and team chemistry may be undermining what appeared to be a nearly unstoppable lineup. Sources claim that Hill's personality, his approach to practice, and perhaps even perceived ego have rubbed multiple teammates the wrong way, leading to tension that some believe could spill onto the field. The idea that Waddle himself is publicly distancing from Hill is enough to make analysts and fans alike wonder. Is this just locker room drama, or a signal of a more serious cultural problem within the Dolphins organization? The whispers started quietly. Early reports suggested that some players were frustrated with Hill's influence and style, but most insiders assumed it was typical superstar friction. However, Waddle's comments, allegedly made in an interview with close media contacts, seem to confirm that the discontent is more widespread than initially imagined. It's like the energy is off every time he's on the field, Waddle supposedly said, according to sources who claim to have heard the remarks firsthand. I just can't see myself playing next to him anymore. That kind of statement isn't just a personal critique. It's essentially a public indictment of Hill's presence in the locker room. While Waddle has always been known for his speed, agility, and professionalism, this revelation portrays a side of him that is willing to speak out about internal team issues, potentially positioning him as a whistleblower of sorts within one of the NFL's most scrutinized organizations. If true, this scenario is fertile ground for speculation. The Dolphins have invested heavily in their receiving core, paying top dollar to assemble a unit that would create matchup nightmares for defenses across the league. Hill's contract and his on-field production have made him a cornerstone of Miami's game plan. But if his relationships off the field are crumbling, the front office may soon find themselves in a precarious position. Teammates reportedly have varying opinions about Hill, with some believing he brings unmatched talent and excitement, while others see his presence as disruptive. The rumor now circulating suggests that even Tua Tagovailoa, the Dolphins' quarterback, may feel the strain of the fractured dynamics, forced to navigate not just defensive schemes, but also the delicate personal politics of his own receiving core. It raises questions about leadership, accountability, and whether a team that looked poised for a deep playoff run could see its trajectory altered by off-field tension. The implications extend beyond the locker room. Fans and analysts alike are already dissecting every snap from last season, looking for signs of friction or communication breakdowns that could now be reinterpreted in light of Waddle's claims. Social media, as expected, has exploded with speculation, theories, and hot takes. Some supporters are defending Hill, pointing to his consistent production and undeniable talent, insisting that a superstar of his caliber naturally attracts criticism and jealousy. Others are siding with Waddle, interpreting his willingness to speak candidly as a sign of courage and loyalty to the broader team, placing principles and camaraderie above individual stardom. The narrative is rapidly evolving, and the rumor that Hill is hated by his own teammates has become the centerpiece of discussions across fan forums, sports shows, and news outlets alike. Industry insiders also note that the Dolphins' management may now face an unenviable decision: intervene to smooth over internal conflict or risk a fractured team chemistry that could derail a season. Rumors suggest that the front office has been quietly monitoring the situation, with some executives reportedly concerned about the impact on morale, practice dynamics, and media perception. Behind closed doors, coaches might be weighing adjustments to offensive schemes, targeting measures to isolate friction points, or even considering roster moves that could separate key players and reduce tension. These decisions are complicated by contracts, salary cap constraints, and the sheer star power of Hill. But if Waddle is firm about his stance, management could be pushed into action sooner rather than later, making the coming weeks critical for Miami's direction both on and off the field. The ripple effect doesn't stop at the Dolphins' internal operations. Rival teams and sports analysts are watching with keen interest, recognizing the potential leverage a fractured star duo could provide. A destabilized receiving core could be exploited on game day, giving opponents a tactical advantage in what was supposed to be a straightforward battle against one of the league's most explosive offenses. Moreover, the rumor is feeding speculation about trade possibilities, contract renegotiations, and even coaching evaluations. In the NFL, perception is almost as important as performance, and the mere hint of a feud between Hill and Waddle could shift media narratives, fan loyalty, and even betting lines. The story is evolving so rapidly that every practice, press conference, and sideline interaction is being scrutinized for confirmation or contradiction of Waddle's explosive claim. Of course, all of this is being discussed in the context of a team that has seen remarkable highs and painful lows in recent years. The Dolphins have been celebrated for their young talent and aggressive offensive strategy, yet the rumored locker room turmoil threatens to overshadow achievements and highlight potential vulnerabilities. If Waddle's comments are substantiated, the Dolphins may face not just a public relations challenge, but a strategic one, as the coaching staff must find ways to maintain cohesion and motivation despite reported divisions. The tension between individual brilliance and collective harmony is a story as old as sports itself, but rarely does it surface so publicly and dramatically as it appears to be doing now in Miami. For fans, this is a moment of intense speculation, debate, and anticipation. The narrative is compelling. A superstar reportedly disliked by his teammates, a rising star unwilling to play alongside him, and a franchise caught in the middle of a potential culture clash. Will Hill and Waddle reconcile? Will management step in to mediate? Or will this tension redefine the Dolphins' season? Every observer has an opinion, and every analyst is circling the implications with the precision of a hawk. As the rumors circulate and the story develops, one thing is clear. Miami is no longer just a team to watch for its on-field prowess. It has become a fascinating case study in personality, politics, and the delicate balance required to turn individual talent into championship success. The NFL landscape is buzzing, and all eyes are on the Dolphins as fans, analysts, and insiders await the next chapter in what could be one of the most explosive locker room stories in recent memory. Whether it's true, exaggerated, or somewhere in between, the chatter surrounding Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill has already transformed the narrative of the Dolphins season, leaving a cloud of speculation, drama, and intrigue that refuses to dissipate anytime soon. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.